Well, this could get interesting. When I did my comparison between the S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro Max, some people enjoyed it, some people didn't enjoy it, and lots of people, as always, fought it out in the comments. The other thing that stuck out for me in the comments, though, was the requests for a comparison between the S25 Ultra and the OnePlus 13, because on the face of it, they both do very similar things, but this one is much cheaper. Which begs the question, can it be better than the S25 Ultra? In this video, we'll find out. It's a very interesting comparison, but before we get to that, thank you if you've subscribed to this channel. We've just gone past 200,000 subs. To celebrate, we're doing a massive giveaway, which you can find out about in my newsletter, which is linked to in the description. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time, all the normal stuff, but we want to give away some stuff, and there's a lot of stuff. I don't quite know how we're doing it, but we are doing it, and it's to celebrate this huge achievement, so thank you. Now, one thing I'm not going to do in this video is go into a deep spec dive between the two, because I just can't be bothered, and it doesn't matter. I'd much rather look at them on the face of it and take them at face value, because that's more interesting, and we won't be here until June. So, firstly, the one spec I will very quickly go into is the storage options, because it's quite interesting. So the OnePlus 13 has two different storage options, 256 gig and 512. The 256 gig one has 12 gig of RAM, and the 512 one, which is this one here, has 16 gig of RAM, and they are priced at $899 and $999 respectively. The S25 Ultra is a bit of a different beast. It comes in three different flavors, 256 gig, 512 and 1 terabyte. All of them have not 1 terabyte of RAM, 12 gigabytes of RAM. This is why I don't do specs. So basically, you get more RAM options with this, but less storage options with this compared to this. But the pricing of the S25 Ultra is quite a bit more. In fact, we'll just put them down here. So remember, the OnePlus 13 is either $899 or $999, and this is how much the S25 Ultra costs. This is going to get interesting. Okay, design. They are very different looking phones. The S25 Ultra is a kind of very utilitarian looking flagship, whereas the OnePlus 13 is very unique looking. You know, it stands out in the crowd beautifully, I think. If I had to pick between the two, I just prefer the S25 Ultra because I like these kind of clean lines, this very, very flagship looking device, which it should look like that because it's quite a bit more expensive than this. But that doesn't mean to say that the OnePlus 13 feels cheap, because it doesn't. It looks lovely and it feels very flagship as well. The overall look and feel of it in terms of, when you've got it in your hand, the S25 Ultra is a little bit less comfortable because it now has very squared off sides, whereas the OnePlus 13 is a bit more rounded. I like that, to be honest. That feels nicer in the hand. In terms of slipability, no contest, actually. The S25 Ultra is a very slippy phone. Oh, by the way, the S25 Ultra has an S Pen, so it has a stylus. The OnePlus 13 doesn't. Does that make any difference? Not really. When it comes to the displays, they both have beautiful screens. It's very hard to pick between the two. If I had to, I would go with the S25 Ultra because it has that anti-reflective coating, and it's just a bit more all-encompassing. That said, the OnePlus 13 is brighter, and you can notice that. But overall, the S25 Ultra does have, I think, the best display on the market. You know, I come across a lot of smart home tech in this job, but one that has really caught my eye recently is DoorPal. And DoorPal is basically a virtual doorbell, which means there's no wiring, no faffing about, no complicated setup, and no batteries. If you've had a battery-powered smart doorbell, you'll know that after a while, you just stop charging it. That's why DoorPal is a pretty clever idea. It lets you see who's at your door, chat with visitors, and even set up schedules all from your phone. There's even this neat feature where you can tag your pet or your belongings with a QR code, so if anything gets lost, it's easy for someone to help you out. I think DoorPal is perfect for anyone who loves smart home tech or who just wants a simple, modern way to manage their door without all that hassle. If this sounds like something that would benefit you as well, it's definitely worth checking out. Go and click that link in the description. When it comes to the operating system, guys, it's quite a tricky comparison because they're both running Android 15. It's just a different take on Android 15 for OnePlus versus Samsung. You know, they look slightly different. They have slightly different navigation elements. The settings app is a bit different, but overall, they feel pretty much the same to get around. They have the same app compatibility, obviously, because they have the Google Play Store and Google Play services. So the one that you prefer will come down to your preference over OnePlus versus Samsung or vice versa. The two differences are the fact that the S25 Ultra has the Now bar and the Now summary. Is it called a summary? The Now brief. Now brief and the Now bar, which are two quite nice features actually, which you don't get on the OnePlus 13. The other difference is AI. Now, Galaxy AI is just a bit better than what you get on the OnePlus 13. Although that said, you get pretty much all of the same features on the OnePlus 13 that you do on the S25 Ultra in terms of AI. It's just a bit more polished, particularly when it comes to photo editing with Galaxy AI, basically. Here's a very good example of this. So if you take this photo here of a coffee mug shaped as a camera lens in my kitchen, Galaxy AI removes it incredibly well. It does this almost faultlessly every time. The OnePlus 13 doesn't do a bad job, to be fair. I think it would definitely have done a better job than Apple Intelligence would if I'd put that through it. But it's, as you can see, it's just not quite as good as the Galaxy AI effort. But I just don't know how to pick between these two when it comes to the operating system. If I had to pick, which I do have to in this video, I would just go for One UI 7. I think One UI 7 is the best operating system on the market. Next up, we have the battery life, and rather than have me sit here and say, oh, the battery is slightly better on this one than that one, but I don't do benchmarks, yada, 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 I want to hand over to the only person on YouTube worth watching when it comes to this kind of testing. Over to you, Ben.
Yo, what's good, everyone from the Mark Ellis team, crew, and audience? Ben from Lover of Tech here, and I'm going to give you my thoughts, findings, and experience with the battery life and charging experience between the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the OnePlus 13. As well as real-world testing, what I mainly do is in-depth, controlled, realistic, extreme battery drain test on mobile cellular data with no Wi-Fi usage. I ran these phones through 8 popular applications, 9 tasks, 1 hour each, and these are the results I got with the OnePlus 13 and the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Now, since the OnePlus 13 was released first, that is of course the phone I tested first, and it lasted a total of 7 hours, 37 minutes, and 23 seconds. For the Galaxy S25 Ultra, it lasted a total of 7 hours, 5 minutes, and 14 seconds. Now, how long does it take to charge these phones back to 100%? The OnePlus 13 approximately takes around 42 minutes and 26 seconds. And in my testing, the S25 Ultra took 57 minutes and 29 seconds. Well, look, it's no surprise the OnePlus 13 lasted longer since it does have a 6,000 mAh battery compared to the 5,000 mAh battery on the S25 Ultra. But considering the difference is only around 30 minutes, and technically the S25 Ultra does have a slightly more powerful version of the 8 Elite chipset, efficiency is actually more on Samsung's side. Overall, the battery experience is better on the OnePlus 13 thanks to just how crazy fast wired and wireless charging is. So if that's what matters to you, then I guess pick the OnePlus 13, especially since comparing the base price, you're saving like a good £350 or even $400 if you live in the USA. But we know there's more to actually choosing when it comes to a phone, so with that in mind, back to you, Mark.
Cheers, Ben. If you want to go and check out Ben's channel, and you really should, we'll put a link down in the description. But now, it's on to the big one, the camera system. As always, the big caveat here is that this is the most subjective part of any smartphone comparison, so if you don't agree with what I'm about to say, that's absolutely fine. Just get involved in the comments. And just be nice about it. This isn't a blind comparison. As you can see, I've put the labels for each phone so you can see what they are. But I think the OnePlus 13, out of the box, produces more contrasty images. There's definitely more drama going on compared to the S25 Ultra, and that really works in certain scenarios. So these cityscapes from London, I just prefer the images from the OnePlus 13. They just look better. You know, they pick the detail out of those buildings much better than the S25 Ultra. I think also the OnePlus 13 background blur is slightly better and slightly more consistent than the S25 Ultra for both portraits but also non-portrait shots. I did find that occasionally, for example, this photo of a coffee mug, that the OnePlus 13 just had better background blur. It looks more DSLR-like. I like that kind of thing. The color reproduction on both phones is very similar. I think the OnePlus 13 is occasionally a little bit warmer, but they're both pretty accurate from what I can remember from these different scenes that we're looking at here. The big difference, I guess, is the blue skies. I think the S25 Ultra, as you would expect from Samsung, is a little bit more saturated. It's bluer, and I prefer that. I like blue skies. The selfies are slightly sharper on the S25 Ultra, not by much, but they're just a little bit more pleasing to the eye, I think. When it comes to zoom, they both have bonkers zoom ranges. You get up to 10x, and I think the OnePlus 13 is sometimes slightly better better, slightly sharper at 10x, but when you go beyond that and into the kind of 100x on both of these phones, you're relying on AI, and they both do a job of it. I still don't really know who would use these photos. I think overall the S25 Ultra does have slightly sharper images, although the OnePlus 13's contrasty look, as I mentioned earlier, does kind of make up for that. But if you really pixel peep, the S25 Ultra is just a little bit sharper, as it was against the iPhone 16 Pro Max. The S25 Ultra also deals with challenging shooting conditions a little bit better than the OnePlus 13. So if you're shooting directly into the sun, as you can see here, personally, I just prefer what the S25 Ultra has done with that image. When it comes to night shots, I think they're slightly better on the S25 Ultra, but again, they're very close. The one thing I have to mention here is the fact that on this particular photo, I had incredibly cold hands, and unfortunately, that resulted in a less than sharp image for the OnePlus 13. That's not the phone's fault. That was completely my shaky hands fault. When it comes to portrait modes, I have one test for this these days, being a dad, and that is capturing my son. Both phones did this very, very well, and actually they both did it better than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. If I had to pick between the two, I would pick the S25 Ultra for these portraits because he just looks a bit more natural in those photos. Overall though, guys, they both take fantastic photos. It's very hard to pick between the two. If I had to pick one, it would be the S25 Ultra by the narrowest of margins, mainly because of those photos of my son, because that's what matters these days. Oh, and this has 5x optical zoom, which is a big deal. In terms of video, they're both very comparable in terms of the image quality, but the S25 Ultra just nudges it again because it has slightly better stability. Neither of them are as good as the iPhone 16 Pro Max. That is where that phone still wins. But again, I would use both of these phones for shooting video for this channel without thinking about it. Time for my conclusion, and it's very straightforward. If you are a Samsung person, just get the S25 Ultra. It is the best smartphone I've ever used. If you're on the fence between these two, it's impossible to look past the OnePlus 13. It's considerably cheaper than this, and it does pretty much the same stuff. It comes down to two things: the design and the camera performance, which again is quite different between the two phones. So over to you. Which one are you getting? Get involved in the comments because I know you will.